Welcome back to the Making the Madness team preview series. We're diving into the mid-majors, talking about one of the best mid-major teams in the country, the Siena Saints.
The starters for the Siena Saints off of a great season. They return star guard Jalen Pickett at the 1, a do-it-all point guard. At the 2, they have transfer Nick Hopkins from Belmont. Freshman Aiden Carpenter will be at the 3. Transfer from Rhode Island, Dana Tate, will be at the 4. And at the 5, they have do-it-all big man Manny Camper.
Yeah, looking at this roster, obviously, you can't not just look at this roster and think Jalen Pickett's going to be the key guy. He was so good last season. He's just getting better and better. It ended up, trying out after his freshman season for the NBA. Since then, he's gotten better as a player. He's just an excellent passer. Can defend. He can shoot. He does everything you would want out of a guard. He's not only one of the best players in the country. He's one of the best mid-major players in the country. He's one of the best players in the country. I look for him to have a huge season this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Jalen Pickett's a fantastic player. I think I had him 5th on my top 100 mid-major player list a while back, and that's a very nice spot to hold. And he's just a great player. 15 points a game last season, 4.6 boards, 6 assists, while shooting 45% from the field and 37% from deep. He has a real chance to be a first-round pick next season. He's 6'4". He's going to be amazing this season. It would be hard for him to be an All-American, but if Siena goes undefeated or has very few losses and he's great, he could find his name on an All-American list maybe. Then Nick Hopkins, a transfer from Belmont, he's a good shooter, comes over, played it. Obviously, Belmont has such a good system that they've had for a long time now, and that Casey Alexander has taken from Rick Byrd. And then at 3, Aiden Carpenter, he's he's a pretty under-the-radar recruit, but Kevin Sweeney, our boy CBB_Central on Twitter, is big on Aiden Carpenter and really opened my eyes to him. He thinks he's going to be a really good player, and I agree just based off the small pieces I've seen and what I've read. He has great size, can play the 2 and the 3. At the 4, you have Dana Tate, who transferred in from Rhode Island. He will play a role. I don't know if he'll be great, but he'll play some kind of role, and maybe later in the season, Colin Golson, incoming freshman, will take his starting job. At the 5, Manny Camper, he had 15 points and 10 boards, I believe, and he's just a really good player. He gets a lot of boards. He's a solid defender, solid scorer. He kind of does everything you want. He's a do-it-all 3, 4, 5 guy, and he'll play a big role for the Saints again this season.
Yeah, and you mentioned Manny Camper. He's a really good interior big man, but Nick Hopkins, Aiden Carpenter, those are the key positions for this team to really have success. You need that, shooting. Elijah Burns provided some of it last season. If Nick Hopkins, Aiden Carpenter can kind of be 35% three-point shooters, that can really help, create extra space for Jalen Pickett. And you give Jalen Pickett extra space, he's going to burn you. And making sure that you can't over help on Pickett's going to be so huge for the Saints this upcoming season.
Yeah, and last point for me here is Pickett will probably get double-teamed a lot early in the season. So you're right, the other people around him are going to have to do the job, and I think the players around him absolutely have the tools to do it to the point where they need to stop doubling Pickett.
Yeah, and if Jalen Pickett still averages, if they're doubling Jalen Pickett and he's only averaging 14 points a game, but he's dishing out an additional 2 assists, that's a win in my eyes. I think he's someone that could legitimately put up a triple-double at some point this upcoming season. We know what he is as a scorer. He's a gifted passer, finds open lanes where they just don't exist. And you get a good rebounding game in there as well. He's going to be important. Manny Camper down low is going to once again be important. He can just score, rebound inside. That's what you need to do. So he's going to be important. Siena's going to be good this upcoming season with this lineup. For this upcoming season, the Saints will, bring off the bench Jordan King, Colin Golson, Gary Harris Jr., Kyle Young, Harrison Curry. This is a name with some good basketball names. Gary Harris Jr., Kyle Young are both impressive players in their own regard, but at this level, different names, obviously, than Gary Harris and Kyle Young, the ones that are at Ohio State and on the Nuggets. But this good roster off the bench, and it's one that I think can kind of come in and you have a couple players, Jordan King, Colin Golson, that can kind of come in, provide some extra help for the Saints as a team.
Yeah, definitely. Siena has a solid bench for sure. Jordan King is a guy who could have a breakout season. Really good shooter, shot 37% from deep last season, and can definitely replicate that this season. Colin Golson's a guy that I think people should have high hopes for. He's a 6'7" guy, and I think eventually he might notch the starting lineup. Gary Harris Jr. is a 6'6" guard who could also play a little bit of forward. He had 5 points a game last season. And then Harrison Curry, a transfer from Detroit Mercy. He started his career at Louisiana Tech, then went to a JUCO, spent a year at Detroit, and now is headed to Siena. He had 7 a game last season with 4 boards, only 43% from the field, though. As a forward who can't shoot, that needs to be improved. But if he can snag a few minutes off the bench, maybe grab a few boards, he could be a solid player for this team.
Yeah, Harrison Curry's doing the Cartier-Gordon challenge, definitely. You mentioned it with this team. If they can come in, they have players like King, Golson, Harris as well. You have players that can come in, provide some additional help for this team. Maybe Jalen Pickett gets in foul trouble in a game or something like that happens. Having a couple guys that can step in and play a role without having too much of a drop off is going to be huge for the Saints for this upcoming season.
Definitely, depth is huge. Some big name departures for the Saints this season. They lose Don Carey, a guard who averaged double figures last season, decided to transfer to Georgetown. Elijah Burns is graduated, and Sammy Friday, the fourth, is transferred to Eastern Illinois.
Yeah, obviously with the two big ones would be Don Carey, Elijah Burns. Carey's just was such an impactful guy at the other guard spot, playing alongside Jalen Pickett. Now they have some pieces they've kind of filled in place, but Don Carey's certainly an important piece, as is Elijah Burns, the Notre Dame transfer who provides some extra offense, some extra scoring as well. I think those two pieces will definitely be big pieces, but at the end of the day, they kind of have players that can step in and fill a role, and I wouldn't expect too huge of a drop-off, especially while they still have their best player on the roster.
Yeah, definitely. Don Carey, I think, opted to transfer because he wanted to be a lead guard, and that was not going to happen at Siena due to Jalen Pickett being Jalen Pickett and how good he is. Elijah Burns started his career at Notre Dame and finished it out at Siena. He had a very good one season for the Saints. He will be very much missed, but I think with the additions of Dana Tate and Colin Golson, they can kind of supplement that loss a little bit.
Definitely. Okay, looking forward to this upcoming season. There's certainly some high expectations for Siena. The first question is, can they repeat as MAC champions? I say the answer is yes. Obviously, they won the regular season title a season ago. They lose a little bit in the depth department, but at the end of the day, Manny Camper, Jalen Pickett, you can't think of a 1-2 duo better in this league. A league that I think is getting better as time goes along. Obviously, adding a good coach in Rick Pitino to Iona, but Iona's going to be in a down season. The MAC, I think, is just built perfectly for Siena to win this year and next year.
Definitely. I wouldn't be surprised if Siena ran the table in this conference, didn't lose a single game. Some of these teams got absolutely gutted by the transfer portal. You look at Quinnipiac losing their two best players with Rich Kelly opting to transfer to Boston College, Kevin Marfo, who led the country in rebounding, opting to transfer to Texas A&M. And then you look at a team like Ryder, who was pretty See, I don't remember if they were the preseason favorites, but they were 1 or 2 for sure. They lose Stevie Jordan to graduation, and they lost Fred Scott, who decided to transfer to Boston College also. And St. Peter's lost one of the up-and-coming stars in the conference in Aaron Estrada, who decided to transfer to Oregon. I think everything falls in Siena's favor, and they should run through this conference.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Uh, well, they'll probably win the MAC regular season title. Winning the tournament title is going to be even more big for the Saints. Do they end their streak? I say yes. We've just discussed on it. There's just when you have two elite players like Pickett, like Manny Camper, uh, you really don't have to do a whole lot in terms of the other positions because those two guys, uh, you can even have a game where it's like gritty, grindy. I can go out and if I'm at Siena, I can go out trust that Jalen Pickett, game on the line, is going to go make some plays to get over the line and get to the NCAA tournament in conference tournament play.
Yeah, definitely. I think they're headed to the NCAA tournament for sure.
And then, assuming they make the NCAA tournament, how far do we think they can go? Obviously, it will kind of depend a little bit upon seeds, but I think if they can get maybe a 13 seed or a 14 seed, maybe even a 12 seed, I think they could potentially, not only upset the team in the first round, but they can potentially make a Sweet 16 run.
Yeah, definitely. This team has all the pieces to be this year's Cinderella team. I love everything this team has going for them. They have a great coach in Carmen Marciello, if I said that right. Hard name to pronounce. But he's a very good coach. Replaced Jamie and Christian. He was an assistant for Coach Christian before he went to George Washington. But Siena just looks great right now. I think they could legitimately win 2 or 3 games in the NCAA tournament and definitely make some noise. They aren't just going to make it and lay down and die in the round of 64. They will win the game in the NCAA tournament if I had to bet on it.
Yeah, this is just a tough team. Obviously, playing as a high seed, you're always probably going to be the underdogs. You're going to be wearing the road unis in the first game, but I think they can go out. They can prove that they belong not only in the NCAA tournament, but belong in the discussion of a potential second weekend team.
Absolutely.